Yung mga ka-office ko nandito na. Alright, cool. Okay, let me share my screen or my slides lang. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the third episode of this series called Building Your First End-to-End Data Portfolio. Again, this is Josh, and I'm going to be talking about how can we extract data from the web, tapos isend natin siya to our local FTP server, and all is done using Python. Okay, so the things that we are going to cover in this episode is we are going to talk about the project that we are going to work on. So, yung overview lang na gagawin natin. So, di ba last time nag-build lang tayo ng ating repository and we've also created our own GitHub repository para sa ating gagawing project in this series. So, in this time naman, this is going to be the very first project talking about or doing the actual portfolio na. Ayan. So we'll also talk about the basics of FTP. So ano ba yung FTP at kung bakit ba natin siya ginagamit. And we are going to set up our WSL, or that's Windows Subsystem for Linux, and our own local FTP server. So yung FTP server natin, gagawin natin siya kay WSL. And if in case na magkaroon tayo ng problems or challenges when configuring these two, I understand it's gonna be a bit complicated. So magkakaroon naman tayo ng alternative approach if we get stuck on FTP configuration. And of course, we are going to create the pipeline that downloads data from the web, tapos i-send natin siya to FTP server. Okay, so yun yung magiging topics natin in this session. So these are the things that you will be needing to install. There's a lot, pero this is going to be for the entire series na. But for this series, you will only need the Python, of course. You will also need the VS Code or any text editor. Okay na naman kahit gumamit kayo ng Sublime or other text editor, even Notepad, if ganun kayo kabatikan. All right. You also need Git and GitHub and WSL2. So these 4 or 5 items, yun yung gagamit natin in today's session. All right. And the following tools will be done next time. So we have our or in the last episode, di ba, nagkaroon tayo ng take-home activity, and I would like to recognize these people who submitted their repositories. Ayan. So nag-post sila sa Facebook tagging me, as well as nakausap ko din sila in person. Sorry, not in person, but via a DM. So nag-share sila kanila submissions. So shout out to the botany. And I also want to give parang a shout out to botany kasi he helped me out on this episode on configuring the FTP server as well as the WSL or Windows Subsystem for Linux. So thank you, Botany, for your help. And back-to-back kami in the past 2 weeks for this session. And also Zhao for submitting your work, and Brian Kalma and Jomari Olaran. So ayan. So for the following, or for this episode, we're gonna have another take-home exercise that you guys can do. So I hope that you would submit your work as well. And of course, more people. Okay, so this is going to be the project that we are going to work on. So diniscuss ko siya sa first episode natin, and I'll still present this here para magkaroon tayo ng refresher sa gagawin nating project. Okay, so it's going to be an end-to-end on-premise project. So when we say on-premise, it's just simply locally hosted na platform, or not really a platform, but it's just the project that we're going to work on. It's just locally hosted. Ayan. So wala tayong gagamiting cloud technology here. So this is going to be our data pipeline. In this episode, ang gagawin natin is itong series na ito, or itong part na to. Ayan. So we have this Python application that will download files from the web. At yung mga downloaded files na yun is going to be uploaded to the FTP server that we are going to build in today's session. All right. And for the following episodes, yung mga natitirang ito. Ayan. And also, siguro, soft announcement na lang din. In the Power BI series, we will have someone else to do it. So, surprise kung sino yun. Ayan. So, magkakaroon tayong special guest. Ayan. Okay, so ano ba yung gagawin nating project na to? So this is the project, the diagram of the project, but in this project, we are going to be working on a simple sanction screening. Okay, so a little bit about sanction screening is that we have this list, or every businesses are transacting with different people. Maybe customers, or it could be someone na nagsusupport sa kanila on their particular business. And of course, there are some specific list of people that they're not allowed to transact with. Doon pa pumapasok si sanction screening. So we have a list of individuals or entities na dapat hindi natin nakaka-transact in our business. So we have an AML law in the Philippines. I'm not an expert on AML as well as with that particular domain, pero there's gonna be some parts that I can talk with you guys or talk about. Ayan. So specifically dun sa mga gagawin natin. So first we need to get a list of the sanctions list. Tapos yung list na yon is gagamitin natin as our main database or reference of the people that we should not be transacting with. Yun yung gagawin natin pipeline. So i-download natin yung list na yon from a specific source, and yun, gagawa natin ng parang simple sanction screening for that. Okay? And we have this particular link where we can download that website. So there's a lot of other sources that we can use, but I'll just show you one sample that we can use for this particular activity. And of course, for the sake of your own portfolio na rin. All right, so feel free to make your own research on this. Yung mga references naman natin here as well as the lists would be available online naman. So, yan. So let's look at this link. So, paano ko ma-turn off to? Ayan. So this is going to be the source that we are going to use. So we have Office of the Foreign Assets Control. And if we look at this red panel, we can look at the lists. Ayan. So marami tayong mga sources dito. So we have a list or a bunch of sources here. I think dalawa lang pala ata. Meron pang iba. But yeah. But here in this page, just look at the SDN list. Okay. And you would see some formats. Ayan, meron tayong XML format, meron din tayong fixed width delimiter as well as CSV file. At ang gagamitin natin sa session na to would be the CSV format. Ayan. So we have SDN, add, alt, as well as SDN comments.csv. But we are only going to use these three sources. Ayan. So let's open this one. Ano kayang laman niya? So yan. So medyo, well, CSV file siya, but you can see some little structure here. If you're not familiar with the CSV file yet, a CSV file is a text file. If you think about CSV file, para lang siyang table. Tapos yung mga column niya is compressed by commas. Ayan. So kapag tinanggal natin yung comma na yan, ibig sabihin nito is the first column. Lakihan natin. Ayan. Sumobra naman. Yan. So ito yung first column natin, ito yung second column natin, third column, and so on. So ganun natin binabasa yung CSV file. Okay? And mapapansin natin that there's a bunch of zeros here. So ano kayang ibig sabihin yan? So we'll find out. Pero wala rin siyang column header. So that's some problems that we have to deal with in this session. Yan. Luckily for us, this source naman has its own documentation. So if you look at the page, hanap lang kayo dito ng etong document na to. So data specification for 𝗂𝘁 delimited, fixed width, and CSV data files. And if we open that, just look for the file na inopen natin kanina. Yan. So ito na yung pinaka-documentation natin. So we have the list of columns. So we have 12 columns in total, and their corresponding data type and size. Tsaka description na rin. Nandito rin yung, sorry, hindi pala ito dapat. Sorry. Pero same lang naman siya. And nandito rin yung yung ibang mga description sa ibang mga sources na gagamitin natin, yung add, tsaka yung alt. So, yan. Ito yung magiging reference natin for us to construct these data sources and clean this one. Okay? So, there you go. I think that's just enough for us to talk about. And let's now discuss next. Ano ba si FTP? Ayan. So, FTP is not face-to-phone, but it stands for file system protocol. Sorry, it's not file system protocol. File transfer protocol siya. Palitan natin. File transfer protocol. Ayan. Okay, file transfer protocol. So FTP. So this is just a way for us to download and upload files and transfer files from one folder to another. So para lang tayong nagka-copy-paste ng file from one folder to a different folder or nag-download ng file, pwede tayong mag-upload ng file. So ganun lang talaga pinaka-function ni FTP server. That's just what we can do with this one. And what's nice about FTP is that we can do this via through a console or through a terminal command line. Tsaka pwede natin siyang gawin all across different operating systems. So in our case, gagamitin natin si WSL just to replicate us having an FTP server which is hosted on a Linux server. Ayan. And we're going to use WSL, and we're going to use vsftpd package in Linux para makapag-configure tayo ng FTP server natin and on our own device. It's also helpful for other companies na hindi pa ganong open to cloud platforms. They can use this and build their own FTP server on their on-premise servers. So ayan. Okay. So we can now talk about or we can now start doing the configuration na. Alright? So here, para mas maging madali yung ating session, gagamitin na natin si VS Code in all our tasks and activities for today's session. Okay? So mag-open ako ng bagong window for VS Code. Ayan. But maybe you guys have any questions muna para ano? Ayan, mo okay naman. Hello, Mike. And hello, Casey. Ayan. Hello. Okay, sige. We can start setting up WSL na. Ayan, so gagamitin natin si VS Code para hindi na tayo magpapalit-palit ng ating mga console, PowerShell, command line, command prompt. Ayan, gagamitin natin si VS Code para nandito na siya lahat. Ito yung maganda kay VS Code kasi meron siyang built-in terminal. Okay. So for this, I'll just open VS Code and mag-open ako ng folder para dun tayo mag-work on. Okay? So shortcut for that is Ctrl-KO or pwede naman kayo pumunta ng file tapos open folder. So Ctrl-KO siya. And let's browse through live sessions. Ayan. Practice. Episode 3. Ito na lang. Episode 3 live. Yan. Para dito na tayo magagawa ng mga bagay-bagay. Okay, so first step that we have to make is to set up WSL. So to do that, let's open our terminal within VS Code. So paano siya? So we can just saan nga ba shortcut nun? Okay, we can just use Control tapos tilde para mag-open siya. Ayan. I think it's also in edit. Saan nga ba yan? But yeah, you can just use Control tilde. Di ko alam kung paano siya i-navigate dito. Terminal. Ayun, terminal pala. Sorry. Ito. Sa view, close natin ulit siya. You can click on the view tab, tsaka terminal. So, ayan, Control tilde tawag dito. So, ayan. Okay. So, by default, mag-o-open sa atin si PowerShell. So again, na-discuss natin to last time. You have to look at, if you're using VS Code, you have to look at this portion para malaman mo kung ano yung specific terminal ang ginagamit mo. So in this case, we're using PowerShell, and this is what we want. All right. So to set up WSL, you might want to check if you have WSL already. So pwede kayo mag-run ng ganitong command, WSL _list. Yan. So right now in this case, we got an error kasi wala tayong available na default distro in WSL. So that's fine. Ayun. Kasi mag-install naman din tayo ng ating distro. Okay, so run the clear command para ma-clear out yung screen natin. And in this command naman, we're going to install a distribution. Okay, and to specify a distribution that you want to install, you can use the parameter -d, which stands for distribution, and just type the name of the distribution. In our case, gagamitan is Ubuntu. Pero if you want to look at the list of available distributions that you can install, you can run this command WSL list _, tapos -o, which stands for online. So ayan. So ito yung mga available nating distributions we can install in WSL. Okay, if you just install this one without specifying your distribution, ang mangyayari is the default would be Ubuntu. Okay, so there. So again, we are going to install Ubuntu. With that, I don't have to specify anything. But if you want to specify your own repository, just put it like this. Ayan. Ubuntu, pwedeng Debian or whatever distribution that you want to install. Okay, so let's just run this. And mag-install lang siya ng ng Ubuntu sa ating terminal. So this is what's nice about WSL is because it's that you can use Linux within Windows. Before, what we are doing is, or what others are doing is nag-dual boot sila. Ibig sabihin, parang sa isang laptop or isang device, meron dalawang operating system yon. Tapos, minsan, yung iba naman na ginagawa is gumagamit ng virtual machines. So, yeah, yun yung ginagawa before ng ibang mga developers. So, lucky for us, we now have WSL, so we don't have to specify we don't have to configure a lot of things na. Okay, so na-install na natin siya, and it's now asking for our username. So, we can create one. So, in this case, I'll just put in my name. And password is a very secured password, which is just password. Ayan. Para hindi na tayo mahirapan. And there you go. Na-install na natin siya and nakapag-create na tayo ng Ubuntu in our WSL. Ayan. And at the very end, you would see here na naka-green na siya because we're now signed in to WSL. Ayan. So, naka-install na tayo ng Ubuntu in our WSL platform. Ayan. So, I can still use a clear command. But this time around, guys, take note na ang gagamitin natin commands is now Linux. So, if you look at this section, naka-WSL na siya. So, this means that the commands that we can run here is just for Linux. So, yung mga PowerShell commands na gagamitin kanina may not work na or hindi na gagana dito since naka-Linux na tayo. But they still have some common commands din naman. Alright. So, what's next after we install WSL? The next thing that we need to do is to update the packages in our WSL or in Ubuntu. Okay? So, to do that, I'll just be running this command muna. Sudo su. Check na. Palakihan natin siya. Ayan. In my case, I have access to sudo. So, sudo means that you are going to run this command in based on the root access that you have. So root access means that you have all the admin access to all commands. Kasi some commands may need admin access. So su means that I'm gonna switch to a root user here. Okay? Gagawin ko siya para hindi na ako mag-sudo mamaya. Kasi in the things that we are going to do later on, puro siya sudo. So, para lang ma-save ko yung time ko on running the sudo commands and typing in my password, I'll just run this. Okay? So, if I press enter, I just have to put in my password. And napansin natin that I'm now on the root access. So meaning I have the admin access to do a lot of things. Okay? And the very first thing that I want to do is to install my packages that's available here in Ubuntu. To do that, I'll just have to run apt update apt upgrade. Okay, anong ginagawa nito? So apt is for us to make some changes to the available packages in Ubuntu. And update command or parameter means that we're going to fetch the list of updates that we can install on Ubuntu. Tapos yung end dito, ibig sabihin that we're gonna run another command. So ang gagawin nito is i-run niya muna yung command na ito. After nyan, ito naman. Okay? So kapag nakuha na natin yung mga available updates that we can install, yung upgrade naman would install those updates. Okay? So ayan, medyo nagiging heavy na yung ating discussion. But that's fine, guys. I'll take it slow naman. So if I run this, ayan. So marami tayong kinukuha ng mga updates. Okay? So baka magtaka kayo, kaka-install ko na naman ng Ubuntu. So bakit may mga changes or updates sa kagad tayo? By default kasi Ubuntu has a specific list of packages with their specific versions. Di niya kinukuha right away yung mga updates from those applications. Okay? So here it's asking us if we want to install it, and we want to install it and just press or add Y. At I also want to mention na meron siyang Python already. So if you want to install Python within Ubuntu or WSL, that's also possible. So install na natin siya. So heads up pala guys, this is not introduction to WSL or Linux episode. So nire-run through ko lang yung mga commands na ginagamit natin. Ini-explain ko rin naman. So pero hanggang doon lang muna. Hindi natin siya kaya i-cover lahat sa isang episode lang. But if you have any questions now, let me know para we can address them. Okay, yes, ito yung tilde natin. Thank you, Botany. Yan. Yes, feel free to share this recording or live session with others para if they're interested, they can just join. Okay. So, nakapag-install na tayo. Ayan. So, I can just use the clear command just to clear the screen para fresh ulit yung ating console. Ayan. So, we've already installed those packages and upgraded them. Now, mag-install na tayo ng vsftpd. So, go back to my slide. Ito yung ating steps to install WSL and to configure a WSL. Alright? So, for vsftpd naman, I'll show that later on. But let's install it first. Okay? So, again, we use the apt command. This time, we are going to use the install parameter, which would install a package. And that package is vsftpd. So, vsftpd stands for Very Secure FTP or File Transfer Protocol. Yung D, I think, is, nalimutan yung D, basta D. Ayan. So, this is what we are going to use to host FTP server on Linux. Alright? So, let's install it. So, do you want to continue? Again, we want to proceed. So, mag-yes lang tayo dyan. And there you go. Na-install na natin si vsftpd. Okay, sige. I'll pause for now and let me know if you have any questions. Ayan. Questions? All good ba? Or medyo mabilis? Medyo... so again, recap tayo. Bakit natin ginagamit si WSL? Or bakit tayo gumagamit ng Linux to set things up? We're using this, or we're doing this kasi we want to replicate that system na us, data engineers, are sourcing data or extracts from an FTP server. There are companies kasi that are still using FTP. So FTP is a bit of an old technology, pero we are still using this for with a lot of companies. And if sa cloud naman natin siya gagawin, ang counterpart niya sa kay cloud, if I'm not mistaken, is S3 file. S3 nga ba yun? S3 files for Amazon. Tsaka I'm not sure for other cloud tech, but yeah, yun. So yun, ito yung way natin before on sending files, downloading files, and exchanging files between different systems and servers. So ayan. Don't you worry, guys. As a data engineers naman, you are not responsible for configuring WSL or configuring FTP server. So, ibang tao na yung gumagawa nun. Unless na lang kayo talaga yung parang point person ng lahat ng IT tech dun sa inyong company. But normally, there's someone else who's doing this. But for us, we are using this just for us to practice our skills in the console. Ayan, yung mga command line natin. Alright, so yeah, thank you Botany for sharing. So pwede daw tayo gumamit ng -y para automatic na siya mag-a-agree sa ating installation. Alright, so we're now done installing vsftpd. Now we are going to configure vsftpd para makapaggawa tayo ng specific nating user that we can use to log into FTP server. Okay? I'll show you something first. Yan. I am gonna run ls command on this directory, etc folder. Ayan. And take note lang guys that if I'm starting my directory from /, ang ibig sabihin nito is pumupunta ako sa pinaka-root or pinaka-unang folder sa Ubuntu operating system natin. Okay? Then I'm going to etc folder, and in this case, I just want to get the list of all files in the etc folder. So ayan. So there's a lot of them. But I want to highlight yung isang file dito. If you look at this, we can see that there is vsftpd.conf file, which is the configuration file of the vsftpd package. Ito yung medyo gagalawin natin in this session para ma-configure natin siya and makapag-access tayo from outside Ubuntu papunta dito sa Linux. Okay? So before we start anything, let's first create a copy of this file kasi gagalawin natin siya and we don't want to mess up. At kung magkaroon man tayo ng medyo mali sa gagawin natin, then we can still retrieve yung file na, yung laman ng original na installation natin. Okay? So, clear ko muna siya ulit. And I'm gonna make a copy. So, that's CP, which stands for copy file. And I'll pull up that specific file that I want to copy. Ito yung first parameter natin. This is the file that we want to copy. The second parameter would be the target file or the destination file. In our case, same directory lang natin siya ilalagay, but same file name din, pero lalagyan natin siya ng _original. Okay? Para alam na natin that this is the original configuration file of the vsftpd package. Okay? And if I run the ls command ulit, makikita natin that we now have two files, two configuration files of vsftpd. One is the actual configuration file, and the other one is the original copy of this configuration file. Okay? So again, ginagawa natin to para magkaroon lang tayo ng backup. In case na magkamali tayo dito, then we can still retrieve the original file. Okay? So clear na natin siya. So ano yung mga gagawin natin changes? But before that, let me show you what's inside the vsftpd command or configuration file. Okay? So I'm going to run nano command on the configuration file of vsftpd. So ano yung nano? So nano is a text editor. So when I run this command, bubuksan lang natin tong file na to para ma-edit natin yung laman niya. So yun lang yung gagawin natin. Okay? So if I run that, ito yung magiging contents ng vsftpd. Okay? So ayan. Medyo marami-rami siyang laman. But don't you worry guys, because I'm gonna share with you guys the list of things that we will do here. Okay? Sige, let's open my cheat sheet dito. Ay, sorry. Nasa ano pala siya? Ayan. So, meron akong ginawang cheat sheet for us to use. I'll just copy this and post it on the comments. Para may reference kayo. Ayan. Okay. So, this is the actual configuration file of vsftpd. If the line starts with hashtag, ibig sabihin lang yan is naka-comment siya. Kapag naka-comment, ibig sabihin hindi walang mangyayari. So parang it's helping us to describe what we are doing here in this particular line. Okay? And these are the specific parameters that we would like to change in vsftpd. So konti na naman siya. And most of them are just default. So ayan. So let's start. So right now, let's have a bit of an introduction siguro muna sa Nano. So you are using Nano text editor right now. Hindi siya ganun ka-similar with our normal text editor in Notepad. Medyo iba siya. So be careful lang. So you can't use your mouse to navigate here. Ayan. So gagamitin nyo lang talaga dito is yung keyboard nyo. Use the arrow keys for you to look for a specific line or go to control your cursor. Ayan. Arrow keys ang ginagamit ko dito. You can also use the page up, page down keys para mag-page down siya, ganun, ng mas mabilis. Alright? And control W naman para mag-search kayo ng items or ng text. Okay? So, alright, let's just look for the parameters that we are going to change. So, we start with the local enable. Ayan, control down lang kayo para maisa-isa nyo siya. Yung ibang mga parameters, let's leave them as is. But let's just focus on these specific parameters. Okay? For local enable, so naka-yes dapat siya. In our case, default naman siya, so we should not be doing anything here. Right enable, sa baba siya. So right now, naka-comment naman siya. So we just need to change or remove the hashtag. Ayan. Tapos next naman tayo is the ch-root local user. So copy ko lang siya. Sorry, hindi ko pala siya makakopy. But I can simply go through each line para mahanap ko yung ch-root parameter. Pero to make things easy, I can just use Control W and type in ch-root_local_user. Ayan. Para ma-diretso tayo doon sa specific section kung nasaan si ch-root local user. Alright? So yung mga parameters na ginagalaw pala natin, may mga description naman siya sa taas. So feel free to read through each description kung anong ginagawa nila. Some of these things are just difficult to discuss kasi medyo mahaba siya. Medyo mahaba yung discussion natin. So just to save up some time, let's just configure it based on these parameters that we are going to set up. Okay? So here, meron tayong ch-root local user equal to yes. But There's actually two of them. Meron pa dito na pares lang. Okay? Ito yung gagalawin natin yung nasa baba. So, uncomment lang natin siya. Ito rin, since magkasama sila dito. Ayan. So, dapat sila ay naka-yes. Ano pa? So, meron din tayong chroot list file. So, i-uncomment lang din natin siya. Okay? And the last two parameters, SSL enable. So, control W lang kayo, SSL enable. Ayan siya. This time, naka-no siya, but we're going to change this to yes. And the last parameter would be require SSL reuse is equal to no. So, we can put it here. O, pwede naman sa pinakababa. Okay lang din naman siya. Require SSL reuse equals no. So, ayan. Yun lang yung mga changes na kailangan natin gawin in the configuration file. Okay? So, I'll just save this. I can use command or control S to save all the changes. Tapos, control X naman tayo para ma-close natin yung file. There you go. So, na-configure na natin si vsftpd package natin. So, let me know if you guys have any questions or kung medyo confusing ba yung mga pinagagawa natin. Ayan. So, yung commands na to is nandito naman siya. So, you can just use this or save this comment para meron kayong reference on what to update kay configuration file ni vsftpd. Okay, goods pa, goods pa? And by the way, guys, I've also already created this repository, which would contain all of the projects that we're going to build in this series. Pero hindi ko pa siya pa-publish kasi I want you guys to practice what we are doing in every episode. Kasi ito kasi may mga source codes na siya. So I don't want to share it right yet kasi syempre kailangan ma-practice pa natin yung building from the very top. Okay? So there. Okay, sige, let's continue na. So after doing any changes sa FTPD configuration natin, it's actually best that we try to restart the service of vsftpd. Okay? So mag-run ulit ako ng command, systemctl restart vsftpd. So this means that we are going to restart the service of vsftpd package para lang mag-refresh yung mga configuration file natin. Or mag-refresh yung mga parameters na ginamit natin or binago natin sa configuration file. Okay? So, wala siyang binabalik na kung ano man. Pero, we will run the same command but this time using the keyword status as the parameter para malaman natin kung gumagana ba siya. Okay? So, ayan. Gumagana naman siya. So, it's active and running. Let me quickly share something para lang malaman natin kung ano mangyayari kapag may error siya. Nano etc vsftpd. Let's try siguro maglalagay lang ako ng A dito. Yan. Tapos i-restart natin siya at ano kaya mangyayari doon? Ayan. So meron tayong error. So ayan. Okay? So yeah, just be careful lang sa pag-manage or sa pag-edit dun sa configuration file natin kasi baka di gumana yung vsftpd nyo. And it's always a good idea na mag-check kayo ng status ng vsftpd just to see if it's running or not. If you're seeing things like this, of course, hindi siya tumatakbo. So, tanggalin natin siya at ibalik natin sa dati. Tapos, restart ulit natin. At check natin yung status niya. Okay na siya ulit. Okay? Alright. So, another thing pala that I need to add is this parameter here. Okay? So, meron tayong parameter na chroot_list file. So, dapat meron tayong specific file like this. Okay? So, gagawin lang natin is we are going to run the touch command and pass this parameter. So, what touch is doing is it creates a blank file that we want to, a blank file. Okay. So, ito yung magiging file name ng blank file natin. And this is the directory. So, ayan. And if we look at ls command on etc folder, makikita natin that we already have that file. So, this is what we are going to use kasi to list down those users na naka-chroot. Okay, so chroot means that we are locking the user on that particular folder na meron sila. So, para hindi siya makaalis sa ibang mga folder. And to save, para security na rin, para hindi tayo masyadong, or yung FTP user na yon hindi niya magalaw yung ibang mga files. Okay? Alright. So, there, we're actually done configuring or changing the configuration of the vsftpd file. Our next step is gagawa na tayo ng FTP user. So, medyo heavy yung ginagawa natin right now. I understand that. So, if mamaya, it's recorded naman, so you can always go back to this session para maisa-isa nyo yung mga step na gagawin nyo to set up your WSL, set up vsftpd din. Okay? Okay, so last na tayo. After this, magkukode tayo kay Python. Don't you guys worry. Okay? And paulit-ulitin yung gawin tong step na to from installation of WSL papuntang configuration ng vsftpd at creation of FTP user. Magiging mas gamay nyo na yung command line dito kay Linux. Alright. So for the last step, we're gonna be making our own FTP account. Alright. So this is going to be the user that we are going to use for FTP access. All right. So add user is the command for us to create a user in Linux. Sorry. Okay, password ko is just a simple password. Retype password. Ayan. And I can leave these things blank na lang. Ayan. Again, is the information correct? I'll just press yes. Okay? So, meron na tayong FTP user. Next is, gagawa naman tayo ng folder. So, ayan. So, copy ko na itong command na to para nandiyan na siya. So, if I look at the list of files, yan, makikita natin na ito na yung folder natin for the user that we just created, FTP user. So, meron din tayong files inside the FTP user. So, ito yung ginawa nating FTP folder kanina. Ayan. So, dito tayo mag-download at mag-upload ng mga files na i-download at mamaya sa web. Okay? So, we are now changing some access levels. So here, we are changing the ownership of this folder to nobody. Ayan. And we are going to change the access level of the user FTP. Or, sorry, chmod is for... okay, so chmod naman, ginagawa natin dito is we are changing or revoking the access of other users dito sa FTP folder natin. Ayan. Okay, and last but not the least, we're going to add the FTP user inside yung file na create natin kanina kay vsftpd para ma-secure natin that this user can only access yung home directory niya. Alright, so yung ma-access lang niya is anything inside this folder. Ayan, so ito na yung ma-access ni FTP user natin. Ay, sorry. Yan pala. Okay? So, that's pretty much it. Ito yung mga kailangan natin i-configure for us to start or configure FTP server kay Windows subsystem for Linux. So yeah, that's a lot. I understand that. So let me know, guys, if you have any questions before I can start testing out our connection naman. So ko-connect na tayo kay FTP server using Python. Sige, let me know if you guys have any questions. Meron tayong 18 viewers. All right, hello, hello. Okay, so I think we're good. All right, sige. Okay, so right now we're going to test our access. So tapos na tayo mag-configure. Let's now test if ma-access natin yung FTP server na yun. Okay, I'll open up a blank notebook. Okay. Paano ba ito tago? Okay, close ko na lang muna siya. Okay. So in Python, when you install Python, you would have a default package called ftplib. So this default package would give you access or a way to connect to an FTP server. Then we are going to import FTP TLS. So itong class na to would help us connect to FTP server securely. All right? Copy ko na lang pala yung code para mas mabilis tayo. And there you go. There you go. So ayan, ito yung class na gagamit natin. So we're just gonna be specifying the host name of our FTP server. So in our case, yung WSL natin kanina has its own IP address. You can use the IP address, pero you can also use the localhost naman. Localhost na keyword. Ayan. But if you are interested to know the IP address or use the IP address of WSL, you can use IP space address. Ayan. Ito yung pinaka-IP address nyo. So just look for ETH0. So yan yung magiging IP address ng WSL. If in case naman that you are using the ifconfig, that's also a way for us to install or look for the IP address of WSL. But if you run that, hindi siya naka-install kay Linux. So to do that, we can just run this command, sudo apt install nettools. Okay? And if we run ifconfig ulit, at the very top, you would still see the same IP address. Alright? So let's just use this na lang, sige. Para ma-experience natin siya. Okay? Our username password would be the FTP user that we created kanina. So FTP user. And my password is just like that. Let's also add the port. The default port is 21 in FTP naman. So yan, pwede natin gamitin siya. Alright? So for us to log into FTP, ang gagawin na natin first is to initiate or instantiate the class FTP TLS and store that inside the FTP, any variable. So in our case, gagamitin natin si FTP variable. To connect, we are just gonna be specifying with the host name plus the port number. Tapos to log in naman, username and password lang tayo. Ayan. And to just fix some errors, we just add this parameter for us to connect securely, okay? Using the username and the password that we have created. So comment ko muna yung ibang mga lines para masubukan natin siya. So let's run this. Gagana kaya siya? Let's find out. Okay, mukhang hindi siya gumagana kasi matagal siya. Yeah, I think it's not working. Yeah, nag-timeout error siya. So, it's not working. What happened? Sige, let's try muna si localhost muna ulit. Okay, di siya gumagana. Okay, what's happening? Let's see. Okay, let's log into WSL. Okay, sudo 𝗘𝗂𝗍 nano vsftpd config. Alright, so let's look at the parameters ulit na ginamit natin. So listen dash equal no. So dapat naka-yes si local enable. So right enable should be yes. What else? Yung ating chroot, dapat naka-yes siya, okay? So mukha naman siyang okay. Kasi naka-yes din si SSL enable, tsaka si require SSL naka-no siya. Okay, let's look at the status siguro. So this is just some ways for us to debug it. Sudo systemctl vsftpd. Oops, mali. Okay, active naman siya. Let's look at ano pa ba? Look at the users list or gamitin ko na si cat etc vsftpd chroot list. Andito naman si FTP user. Okay, so what's happening? Let's try restarting the service. Baka gumana. Oops. Status niya ay okay naman siya. Let's try to check the IP address ulit. Double check natin kung tama nilagay natin. So, 172. Yan, try natin siya. 21.202.140. Okay, so gumana na siya. So bakit siya gumana? Di ko alam. Just kidding. But maybe I just added an incorrect IP address. But yeah, it worked naman na. So let's just save these items na lang. So the IP address would be like this. Try ulit natin localhost kasi yun yung di gumana eh. Okay, so sa localhost siya hindi gumagana. Yeah, so let's just stick with the IP address na lang. So, ito yung IP address, the username, password, and your FTP port should be 21. Okay, ayaw na naman niya gumana. Bakit? Uy, gumana siya kanina. 202.21. No connection to be made because the target. Okay, try ulit nating i-restart yung ating yan. Notebook. And let's try this. 21. WSL. IP address. 172.21.202.140. Okay naman siya dapat. Ayun, gumana ulit siya. So, that's weird. Okay. Okay, so it's working na. So, baka nagloloko lang ating something. Okay. Alright, so we are able to log in. So since like 200 naman siya, ibig sabihin that's an okay or a successful connection. We can look at the pwd, which is the current working directory ni FTP, and we are now inside the FTP user. Okay? So I'm not sure what's happening, but ayan, okay naman na siya. Close ko na lang. Baka kailangan natin i-restart si Python din. Okay, so that's it. We are able to connect. Any questions that you guys have? So every changes po siguro need to restart the service. Yes, I agree. Pero yung kanina kasi parang na-restart ko na yung service eh. So baka kay Python naman tayo nagkaroon ng problem. So let's see. Okay, pag nagbago ng FTP host, need to restart services. Okay. Sige. Baka kasi siguro nung nag-install ako ng IP address, yun ang iniisip ko lang. Nung nag-install ako ng IP, ng NetTools, baka may mga nag-update or may mga naggalaw na packages. So probably that could have resulted to something, parang changes dun sa vsftpd. So probably. So yan. Okay, we're now good. And we're now ready to code our data pipeline that downloads data from the web and ipa-upload natin siya kay FTP server. Okay? Sige, before that, do you guys have any questions? Okay, sige, let me know if you guys have any questions. Medyo confused ba kayo kung bakit natin to ginagawa? Ayan. So, we have 18 viewers. Hello, everyone. Paano ba ang coffee? Okay, so I think we're good. Sige. So ito, meron tayong configuration dito. Ito yung mga ginagawa ating configuration. Oops, take kung mag-debit na siya. Sige, let's now create our data pipeline na. So again, our goal is to download these files, sdn.csv, add.csv, alt.csv. So kapag ka-download natin sa kanila, i-upload natin siya to our FTP server. Okay. So I'll show you something to make things easier here. Close ko na muna siya. I-exit ko lang siya para makalabas ako ng WSL. Ay, sorry. Kailangan pala natin to. Sige. Okay. So first is, let's start creating muna our environment. So, hindi ko pala nakaka-create ng environment. Or let's start muna siguro from the very top. So git add or git init dot para mag-initialize tayo ng blank repository. Okay? And if we look at the files, wala siya nakalagay dito, but if you look at the actual folder, so copy relative path. Ayan. So meron tayong git initial git repository here. Okay? And let's also create our environment in Python. So that's going to be Python -m venv env. So again, we're going to be creating a virtual environment, which was discussed last time. And we are going to call it env folder or env environment name. Yan. So mag-create tayo ng environment. And habang nag-create tayo, we will create a requirements.txt file para ma-install natin yung mga kailangan nating i-install na packages. Okay? So I'm using just pandas and 𝗙arrow. Actually, 𝗙arrow is not required kasi CSV file lang naman siya. But I'm using this kasi pandas has this update na dapat naka-install na rin si 𝗙arrow. So yeah. So here I'll just add requirements.txt para meron tayong requirements.txt file dito. Okay? So again, we're just using this just to cancel out the deprecation warning na magkakaroon tayo when we are working with pandas. Okay, so now that we have the environment file, let's install the packages first, okay? Sorry, activate muna pala si virtual environment. So, to activate virtual environment, pupunta lang kayo dito sa path na ito. So, env scripts activate.ps1. So, again, ps1 kasi naka-PowerShell ako. But if you're using a different console or command prompt, you might be needing to use a different file. Pero for now, siguro it's best for us to stick around with PowerShell. Okay, so activated na siya. Let's install the requirements.txt file, which are just the pandas in the 𝗙arrow package. And to do that, pip install -r, which stands for recursive. Ayan. It should not take a while. And while it's installing, balik muna tayo rito sa ating repository. Napapansin nyo, marami tayong nakalist down na files dito. This is because we've also added the environment file. So what we want is, we want to ignore the environment folder. Sige, while we're waiting, paki-comment kung ano yung gagamitin nating file to ignore the files, okay? In GitHub, or in Git, rather. If you guys can still remember that. Ano yung ginagawa natin to ignore specific files or folders kay Git para hindi siya makasama sa version control natin. Okay? Anyone? Sige, comment nyo lang kung ano yung ginagamit natin nun. Okay, sabi ni Zed, Git ignore. You are correct. Ayan. And botany added git ignore, tapos ilalagay natin si env folder, which is correct. Okay, dahil dyan, meron kayong like. Ayan, may like kayo. Charot. Sige, gawin natin git ignore. Mag-new file tayo dito, .git ignore. At sabi ni botany, we'll just ignore the environment file. And if we press save, ayun. So, nabawasan na ang ating items dito, naging 2 na lang. Okay, there you go. Yan, so that's it. And I also want to highlight na it's important kasi mamaya may gagawin tayo dito kay environment file. Doon natin ilalagay yung mga credentials natin. Okay? So, there. So, oops. Install na natin yung mga packages ng yung pandas and 𝗙arrow. And let's now start doing something on the environment file. So, remember kanina meron tayong host name ni FTP natin and the username and the password. So what we want is to protect or parang store these credentials in the way na hindi tayo ma-expose or hindi natin siya isama sa actual code natin. Alright? So we want to protect these para, syempre, hindi siya makuha ng kung sino man. So how do we go about that? So in the environment file, meron tayo ditong scripts at yung mga activates files natin, right? So here, let's open the ps1 file. Ayan. And at the very bottom, punta lang kayo sa dito section. Ayan. Kahit dito na lang. Pwede tayong maglagay din ng mga variables para doon natin ilalagay yung mga yung ating mga what do you call that? Username, password, and everything here. The username, the password, the host name, pati import. Pero di na naman siya gumagana. Sige, anyway, let's get back to that. Okay, so para kapag inactivate natin yung environment, makukuha na natin yung mga environment na yun, yung mga variables na yun inside here. And we don't have to manually or hindi natin kailangang i-hardcode yung mga ganito sa scripts natin. Okay? So let's do that. So how do we save an environment here? So let's add a comment. Environment FTP, environment variables. Yeah, remember guys, I'm just using the PS1 kasi naka-PowerShell ako. And I'm gonna use PowerShell to run the scripts and all that. So here, I'll just start with this $env, tapos FTP host equals yung ating hostname. Yan. Copy ko lang siya, or pwede ko lang siyang ganyan. Sama ko na yung port FTP user, FTP password, and the FTP port. The username is FTP user. Password is password. Port is 21. Yan. I'll save this. And close siya. Mag-open ako ng panibago notebook para makita, para ma-demo natin kung paano natin makukuha yung mga variables na ito. Okay? So here, I'll just switch the environment. Or di na siya gumagana. Let's switch to a different environment since meron na tayong create na environment. So, pero hindi siya papakita dito. File, new file, notebook. This is not what I want. I want the environment na create natin. Sige, i-restart na si VS Code. Don't save. Close ko na rin to. At medyo nagkakaroon tayo ng problem sa ating sige. Control-KO tayo. Tapos puntahan natin si create natin kanina na form. Save mo na yan. Okay, there you go. So let's open a notebook. Dito siya pa nagpapakita. Anyway, sige. Dito na lang tayo mag-open dito just to test things out. Alright? So, I'll open environment scripts tapos activate para mag-activate siya. And here, let's call Python. And from here, mag-import tayo ng OS. So OS is a package for us to operate on the actual system that we are working on. So OS has this, what we call the environ command, which will get all of the environment variables that we have on this operating system. So in our case, let's try FTP host. Kasi 'di ba kanina nilagay natin tong FTP host natin, right? So if we press enter, makukuha natin yung FTP host natin. And this is how we are going to get the host name, the username, and the password kay FTP. Okay, and if we use the user naman, makukuha pa rin natin siya, si user naman. Okay, so that's how we go about storing credentials. We can also use the actual environment variables in our device or in our laptop or computers. You can use this if you want to, para hindi nyo na siya gawin dito. Alright? Okay, so that's it. Alright, we are now okay. Oops, sorry, di nga pala to ano. And sorry, last one pala before we start coding in Python. Magsasama din tayo ng isang package pa. That's the package called schedule. Okay, so schedule, gagamitin natin ito para makapag-schedule tayo ng pipeline. Alright? So, ayan. Okay, so I think we're ready naman na. So, yan. Do you guys have any questions before we start coding? Okay, questions? So, ayan na. Magsisimula na tayo. Okay, sige. We can start na. With that, let's create a file here. And let's call this, ano mo maganda pangalan? app.py. Okay, di ba pinag-isipan talaga? Alright? And here, sige, magka-copy na lang ako ng mga codes ko para we can save some time. Okay? Ito na lang muna tayo. Ayan. So, ayan. Okay, so I've imported a couple of things. So I'm gonna use this para makapag-add tayo ng parameters when we run the script. I'll also use the JSON module in Python. Kasi what we are going to do is lahat ng mga gagawin natin here ay naka-config na lang siya. So for example, remember here meron tayong kailangan siya ma-replace. May mga iba't iba tayong source links at may iba-iba tayong number of columns as well as the column headers. So instead of us manually doing the format or the script for each version or for each source, gagamit na lang tayo ng configuration file for that. Okay? I'm gonna use time and schedule to schedule the execution of this pipeline. Of course, pandas para ma-convert natin or ma-download natin itong files na to and save it into a CSV format. And of course, to do some pre-processing then to add the column names, replace these values with null values. Kasi if you look at here, null daw siya. Ayan siya. Okay? At we're using the environ again, just to get the environment variable so we have just created. And remove just to delete some files. Pathlib just for us to get some the actual file name with a good object. So mamaya papakita natin siya. Ayan, so FTP naman din for us to connect to FTP server. Okay? Before doing that, baguhin ko lang siya ng kaunti. I'll print FTP host. Because may mga nangyayari kasing something dito. So I'll show you that. Okay? And if you're running a Python module or Python script, it's best that we are using this notation para in case that you are importing these or creating these functions, pwede nyo siyang ma-reuse pa rin naman. Ayan. There you go. Okay, so this get FTP function will return the FTP object that we can use to authenticate and access our FTP server. Pero this time, let me just test something kasi I always get this problem with a virtual environment variables in Python. Okay, so let's activate our environment, PS1 and Python app.py. So mukhang okay naman siya. Kasi if there are times kasi that when you are storing environment variables in Python, may nasasama siyang double quotes or single quotes dito. So in this case, wala naman siyang nalagay na single quotes. So we should be good. And one last thing, let's retest yung ating connection. Mukhang nagkaka-problem ulit tayo. Ayan, let's try that. So, i-run ko ulit siya, then we should be authenticated naman na dito. Okay, so I think we're having some problems ulit. Yeah, okay. Nagkaroon na naman tayong issue. What's going on? Let's open WSL. Sudo systemctl. Status vsftpd. Okay pa rin naman siya. So, anong nangyayari dito? I think alam ko na nangyayari. I think. Yeah, mukhang alam ko na. So, let's keep this WSL. I think na-disconnect kasi tayo dahil pinapatay ko siya, kino-close ko siya. So, yeah. Okay, so let's keep this open para it's still active. Okay? Okay, so mukhang ganun nga yung case natin. Alright, so I think okay na siya. Sige, close ko lang siya muna. Mababalik pa rin naman yan. Okay. So, I think na-resolve na natin yung problem natin doon. So, dapat makip natin siya as open. Alright. So, what else should we do? As mentioned kanina, gagamit tayo ng parang configuration file just to download the list of files that we have and apply some transformations. And I've actually prepared something for that. Let's open this and copy this. Gagawa tayo ng file and we'll call this config.json file. All right. I'll paste whatever I copied. So here, it's a JSON file. Ito yung gagamitin natin pinaka-configuration natin. And what we are going to do is we are going to iterate through this configuration file para makuha na natin yung URL. So ayan, bawat source may URL. Meron tayong params section or params na key. Ayan, just to pass the parameters kay pandas. Okay? And of course, the name of the source. So, ofacSDN, ito yung URL niya, ito yung parameters niya. Kay alt, ito siya, and all that. Okay? So, ito yung gagamitan just for us to make things easier for us. Okay? So, balik tayo kay app.py. At ika-copy ko naman si read.csv file. So, para hindi ko na siya i-code every now and then. Ayan. So this is the read_csv function that we have. And the parameter is just the config file. Ang gagawin kasi natin dito is ipapasa natin itong section na to. Itong pinaka object na yan. Okay? Para makuha natin yung URL and the parameters. And here, I'm assigning the URL and the params in the URL and the params variables. At yung URL, ipapasa natin siya kay pandas read_csv file. At pinapasa natin yung params dito. Take note of the double star here. Medyo lakihan ko lang siya. Yung double star na yan in Python means that we are decompressing the dictionary para maging name parameter siya. So here, if you look at the params, meron tayong names, NA values, skip footer, and engine. These are actually pandas parameters. Okay, so si pandas meron NA_values. Ayan, meron din siyang names, which will give us the column names, and engine. Ayan, so yan yung mga parameters si pandas. So ginagawa natin siya para ma-compress o ma-decompress at makuha natin yung actual parameter name. At ano yung magiging argument niya, which is this. Okay? So, yun yung ginagawa natin sa double star na yan. Alright. Sige, let's test this out. Before that, let me get the... wala pala siyang function. Sige. So before that, let's get this muna. Yung pipeline na siya. Okay, let me copy this. So this is how we read JSON file in Python. So we need to open the file first and config.json. Tapos, gagamitin sa json.load para ma-load natin yung actual file. RB here stands for read binary because we are just going to read the binary format of this file. So para ma-parse natin siya into dictionary. Okay? And if I print the config file, medyo magulo, but this is the actual configuration that we just created here. Ayan. Okay, so nakukuha naman natin siya. Alright? So yun yung ginagawa nitong section na to. Okay, and if we try to use this function, ganito yung magiging itsura niya. So read_csv config, and I'll just get the configuration for 𝗃𝘁-SDN. Okay, this means that I'm gonna pass the parameters ng 𝗃𝘁-SDN, the URL, the parameters, names, any values, and skip footer engine para ma-read natin siya as a data frame. That way, we can now read the actual data in a nice format. Kasi if you look at this one, wala siyang column headers, and we also have these values, which means that it's null values. So ayan. Okay, so if I can just use print para ma-print natin yung first 5 rows na to. Again, this is gonna return a pandas data frame, and we're going to fetch the first 5 rows. Okay? Clear natin to and run ulit natin siya. So it might take a while kasi it's already trying to download that file. Well, not really download pa, but it's just more of reading the file. And right now you can see that the head or the first 5 rows of the data has been captured. So ito yung 36, our 𝗘𝗂𝗁 Airlines. Ito siya. At yung mga naka zeros na yan, it's now replaced with nulls or NaNs. Okay. So that's how we can go about making our pipeline dynamic. So we don't have to manually code each source. Kasi before, what we are doing is parang kapag kaiba yung format niya, kailangan natin i-customize yung ating mga parameters. But this time, we can simply use pandas and pass a named or a dictionary para ma-parse ni pandas itong mga ito. Okay? So do we have any questions muna before we continue? So yan, nakakapag-download na tayo ng data dito. At nakuha na natin siya. Right? So any questions that you guys may have? All right, we just have 13 participants. Hello, everyone. Don't you worry, guys, if medyo na-confuse kayo sa first part natin and medyo marami akong ginawang troubleshooting. I know that. This is recorded naman. You can go back to it. I'll upload it later on sa YouTube para you can review already. Okay, sige. All right, so no more questions. Okay, let's close this muna. So, okay, sige. Let's just code the rest of it na lang since magiging madali na naman to. All right, so our approach is to read the configuration file and iterate through each source dito. Okay? 𝗃𝘁-SDN, 𝗃𝘁-ALP, tsaka 𝗃𝘁-ADD. All right, so what we are going to do is to read the CSV file, convert that into, or save that as CSV, tapos i-uploadan siya kay FTP. All right? Sige, let me code it first muna. So, for key value in config.items. Alright, so here what we are doing is kinukuha natin yung configuration file at since naka-dictionary to, ang mangyayari ay meron tayong object or method na tinatawag ng items. What's gonna happen here is i-loop through natin yung OFAC name or yung source name tsaka itong actual dictionary na to or object na ito. Okay? So, source name, tapos ito yung pangalawang value niya, tapos source name, ito yung pangalawang value niya. Okay? Oops, cancel. So, let's call this file source name is equal. So, ito na pala siya, sorry. Source name na lang siya para mas madali. And source config. All right. And then what we are going to do is to construct the file name. Kasi i-save natin siya as a CSV file, .csv file. All right. Pero yan, magiging CSV file siya. So, download natin yung data, save natin siya CSV file. Sige, pwede okay na to para hindi na masyadong complicated. Okay. And then, we are going to parse the CSV. Here we have just the core source config. So, remember, itong source config na to, which is the value of the key here, ito yung kinukuha natin. Alright? At kapag pinasa natin siya as parameter inside this function, ang mangyayari ay kukunin niya yung URL, the parameters, at babasahin niya siya. Okay? And that way, we can already save this to a CSV file. File name, tapos index should be false. Para hindi natin masama yung row numbers ni pandas. Okay? Sige, let's try doing this or try running this muna. Clear ko to and patakboyin ko siya. And let's open the file din para makita natin kung may mga nakukuha tayong files. Ayan. So, may mga nadadownload tayong files. OFAC SDN. Tapos, ano pa ba? Ayan, ALT. Tsaka last is the ADD. Okay, ayan. So, ADD. And we're done. Okay. At kapag buksan natin to, ito na yung data natin. Medyo malinis na siya. As you can see, meron tayong column headers. Meron na rin tayong mga null values here. Ayan, wala na yung mga 0, 0 na yan. At yan. I think we should be good. Pwede natin siyang i-upload kay FTP natin. Okay, so there. Sige, lagay tayo comment dito is to loop through each configuration to get the source name and its corresponding config. Yan. Okay, so after natin ma-download yung file na yon, pwede natin siyang i-upload kay FTP. Okay? So, paano natin siya i-upload kay FTP? So, let's create a function. Upload to FTP. Tapos, itong function na to, magte-take siya ng FTP object as parameter. Tapos, yung file source. So, yung file natin, pwede siyang string or pwede rin siyang pathlib object. Okay? Pero mas bet ko kasing gamitin si pathlib. So, gamitin natin si pathlib. Mamaya papakita kung bakit. So si pathlib naman, ayan, so okay na siya. Si FTP object, ang gagawin lang natin dito is, ang gagawin natin dito para makapag-upload tayo is, first, we need to open yung file source natin. Okay? And it's gonna be in binary format. Read the binary format of the file. And bibigyan natin ng alias as FP. Okay? So, itong pinaka-final output na to, yung alias na yan, is gonna be the actual binary data ng file natin. Okay? Tapos, itong FTP naman, meron siyang method na kung tawagin ay store binary. Ibig sabihin niyan, it's going to store the binary data that we just captured into FTP server. Okay? Pero saan natin siya isa-send? So, meron tayong, for us to do that, kailangan mo natin i-call yung store command. So, yung store command will store these binary data into FTP. Tapos, ang next na parameter niya would be the file name. And the file name that we want to give it is the file source. Ayan, which is this particular file natin. At since naka-pathlib tayo, meron siyang parameter na kung tawagin ay .name. So this file name file source .name will get us or will give us the file name of the file. So config.json, 𝗃add.csv file, 𝗃alt.csv. So yun yung makukuha natin. Okay? What we are doing here is what we call string interpolation. Tama ba yan? String interpolation. Tama nga. String interpolation. Okay? Pero it's not gonna work pa kasi binabasa pa siya right now as a string. To activate string interpolation in Python, before the opening quotes, add kayo ng F. Pwede siyang capital, pwede siyang small letter. Okay? So yan. So that's the first parameter of the store binary function or method. The next parameter is the FP, which is the alias na ginamit natin ng binary file na yun. Alright? So lagay mo lang siyang FP and we should be good. So there, that's how we go about it. And this time, magpapas naman tayo dito ng additional step, which is to upload file to FTP. Wala pa pala tayong authenticated na FTP, so I'll be adding it here. FTP would be FTP, yan. FTP, tapos file name. Okay? Gagawin natin siyang path object. Okay, so ulit, dinagdag ko lang tong line na to just for us to get an authenticated FTP object. Tapos, etong file name natin, kinonvert ko siya into a pathlib object. This way, mas madali yung pagkukuha natin ng file name. Alright? After we read the data, download the file, and save it into a CSV file, we upload the data to FTP. Alright? So, we pass the authenticated parameter, tapos yung pathlib object ng file natin. Okay? So, what's gonna happen is, mag-upload siya to FTP server. Pero paano natin malalaman kung nag-upload ba talaga siya or baka niloloko ko lang kayo? Ayan. So, punta kayo dito sa Windows nyo. Meron kayo ditong Ubuntu. Alright? Let's not use this na lang. Sige, mag-console na lang tayo. Kasi hindi ko siya ma-authenticate. Mag-open ako ng panibagong tab. Sorry, mali. WSL tayo, pero mag-pass kayo ng parameter ng -u. Tapos, ibigay natin yung username na kailangan natin, which is the FTP user na gagamitin natin dito. Alright? Ayan. So, naka-FTP user na ako and I can use ls to get the list of files here. So right now, naka-FTP pa ako, pero let's make this in a nice format. May L ba yun? Ayan, tama. So ito yung ating formatted na list of files. So we just have one file, which is just the FTP folder. Okay? So mamaya magkakaroon siya ng laman. Okay? So here we should be good. Meron na tayong file. Meron tayong way to download the file and save it in CSV format, and now we are going to upload it to FTP. So let's run the file. Okay. So dapat pala tinanggal ko na lang muna siya, pero that's fine. Mamaya papakita kung paano tayo mag-delete. Ayan. So let's just wait. So far, okay naman tayo. Ayun, okay na. Tapos na siya. So again, ginawa natin is nag-download tayo ng CSV file and in-upload natin siya sa FTP. So balik ako kay FTP and i-run ko tong same command. Naglagay ako ng -L para makita natin yung last na modified date ng folder na yun or ng file na yun. If I run this, as you can see, meron na tayong tatlong bagong files. So meron tayong kanina, which is yung FTP folder that we just created. But this time around, we also have 𝗂𝑃HADD and 𝗂𝑃HALT, 𝗂𝑃HSTN, which are just the files that we created or that we downloaded from the web and in-upload natin siya to FTP using Python. So nakikita natin 1836. Anong oras ngayon? 1837 or 6:37. So hindi ko kayo nilalako na na-upload natin siya. Ayan. Okay, there you go. Na-upload na natin siya and actually it's almost done. But sige, from here, let's pause for a while and let me know if you guys have any questions. Sige. Buhay pa ba kayo? Gising pa ba? Okay, so mukhang walang questions or medyo delayed lang. Alright, sige. Okay, let's finalize these things. Sige, it's now working and we are able to upload those files into FTP. Gawa na tayo ng konting cleanups. So I want these files to be deleted after we I want to delete these files after natin siyang ma-upload. So dito parang gusto kong gumawa ng delete file. Oops, sorry. Gusto kong gumawa dito ng delete file function. File name. Right? So to do that, we can call we can define a function that's called delete_file. And the file source would be would be an FTP file or so a path-live object. But this time we can also add string as an option as another way to pass the file source. Kasi here ang gagawin lang naman natin is to remove the file source. Ayan. Alright? So, ayan. Yung remove function na to is from OS library. Ayan. So, delete nila yung file na yan. So, before I run this, the last thing that I want to do is to turn this into a pipeline function. Alright? Para magamit natin naman yung schedule function natin or module. So, here, I'll call a function called pipeline. Wala tayong parameters dyan because we are just going to copy this entire code here. Ayan. At dito naman, papatakbuhin na natin siya dito. Alright? So we should be good, right? So pipeline na siya. Another thing that I want to do is to schedule this pipeline function. In a normal data pipeline scripts that you are working on, kadalasan meron siyang schedules, right? So how can we schedule this pipeline in Python? So that's why we added kanina yung schedule module natin or package natin. So this is what we are going to use to schedule a Python script. Okay? So paano nga ba mag-schedule dito? Copy ka na lang siya. Ito. Yan. Okay, so ayan siya. Tanggalin ko muna ulit ito. But this time around, I'll be scheduling I will schedule a function every day at this particular time. So in military time, try natin siya 18:43. Sige, 44 na lang. Okay? Para mahabol natin. So para mapatunayan ko ulit na gumagana siya, maglalagay tayo dito ng konting logs lang. Okay? Print file has been downloaded. Tapos, dito, uploaded to FTP. Deleted. Yan. So, maglalagay tayo ng konting logs dito para mapakita ko lang that it's working as scheduled. So, right now, i-run natin siya as scheduled. So, gawin natin siguro itong 40... Anong oras na ba? Ay, wala na tayong oras. Wala tayong seconds. But see, that should be fine. So, there. Habulin ko pa ng 43. Sige, 44 na natin. Tapos, papatakboy natin siya ngayon. Okay? So, if papatakboyin ko siya, ayan, 43 na. Ayan. So, kapag nirun ko na yan, so wala pang mangyayari kasi si scheduler natin, hinihintay ng pumatak yung 16:44 or 18:44 or that's 6:44 in the evening bago niya patakbuhin yung pipeline function natin. Alright? So, let's try to wait for about a minute bago natin siya makita na tumatakbo. So, we are expecting some logs to get printed. Ito dapat yung unang mag-log, tsaka to. It should happen 6 times kasi meron tayong 𝗃 SDN, 𝗃 ALT, and 𝗃 ADD. So, ayan. Sorry, 9 times pala. So, that's 3 times 3. Right? So, again, we are waiting for this to run at 6:44. Ayan, 6:44 na. Anytime soon, dapat meron na siya. Okay. Walang hihinga. Ayan. Alright. Meron na tayo. So, 𝗃 SDN has been downloaded, has been uploaded to FTP, tsaka deleted. ALT, okay na rin siya. Kay ADD naman tayo. So, kay ADD, ayan. Tapos na siya. So, we are good. So, that's how we go about scheduling it. So, it run at 18:44. So, kailan siya next tatakbo? So, bukas ulit siya tatakbo at 18:44. Tatakbo siya only if this console is still running. There is a different way for us to schedule this na para hindi na siya naka-base dito sa ating laptop na sa VS Code. So we can schedule it via or we can schedule to we can execute this to run on startup. 'Di ba meron tayong Windows startup dito? Pwede siya. Or pwede tayong gumamit ng scheduler in Windows. Meron tayong scheduler. Yan, task scheduler pala. So we can also use that. But I'm not going to cover that, but know that that's how we can go about scheduling jobs in Python. Of course, there are other ways. I'm showing you the very basic way of doing it. I'm also using prefect for us to orchestrate this process. Pero let's not talk about that muna since medyo heavy kasi yung topic natin. Ayan. But that's how we can go about scheduling a Python script to run on schedule. Okay? So last modification na gagawin ko dito is gusto ko magpasa ng parameter every time na mag-run ako ng script para pwede ko siyang i-manual run. Okay? So paano ko siya gagawin? So dito, pwede akong mag-run dito, mag-add ng parameter na next run, or let's say param. So sys.argv1. So itong sys object or module natin is our way for us to get whatever we are putting in on the console. So itong argv, it's our way for us to get the parameter na pinapasa natin sa kapag ka nag-run tayo ng ganyan, Python app, ganyan. So we are getting the first, or not the first, sorry. That's the second parameter. So kapag ka naglagay ako dito ng manual, kukunin niya si manual. Alright? So dito, kukunin ko yung hanggang second parameter na kailangan natin. And if, gagawa tayo ng condition dito, if param is equal to manual, ang gagawin niya is papatakbuhin niya lang si pipeline. Elif param, kapag ang parameter naman natin is schedule, ang gagawin natin is etong buong scheduler natin. Alright? Tapos, kapag hindi naman siya any of these two, ang gagawin natin is print invalid parameter. The function will not run, or the app will not run. There. Okay, clear ko to. Yan. So, kapag ka naglagay ako dito ng let's say pangalan ko, syempre, hindi siya tatakbo dapat. Ayan, invalid parameter, the app will not run. Pero, kapag ka nagpatakbo ako dyan ng may parameter manual, this should run at once. Okay, so medyo matagal lang siya. So, ayan. Nag-upload na siya to FTP. So, we should have 2 more files. Okay, 2 files. And the last file would be 𝗘𝘂𝗶. And there you go. So, nag-stop na rin yung job after we run it. Pero if we run it on schedule, kagaya ng ganyan, hindi siya tatakbo today kasi ang next run pa niya is 6:44 tomorrow. Alright? Kasi nakalipas na tong oras na to. So, hindi na siya tatakbo. So, there. And last check na lang. Baka nandito pa ba yung files natin? Dito pa naman siya. And you can see that the time has been updated. So, right now, it's 18:48 and 49 na lang siya. So, that kanina, it's a different time. So, ayan. So, that's how we can go about creating our pipeline in Python. So, again, we are able to set up WSL as well as vsftpd para makapag-create tayo ng sarili nating local FTP server. We are also able to extract these sources from the web. Dinownload natin siya using Python as a CSV format na may malinis ng format, at in-upload din natin siya to FTP server that we just created. And lastly is create natin yung script natin in a way that that can be scheduled. So, ayan. Alright, so I think that covers it all. So, let me know guys if you have any questions. So, ayan. So, ito, balikan ko lang din yung slides. And I just want to discuss the take-home activity naman. Alright? So, the take-home activity, you will still do the same step end-to-end, configuring your FTP server, WSL, tsaka yung pag-download natin ng files papuntang FTP server. Okay? So, ang source na gagamitin nyo is still OFAC. Ayan. Pero, ito yung gagamitin nyo, Consolidated Sanctions List. Ayan. Meron tayong iba't ibang format dito. So, I'll let you guys choose whichever format you like. Pwede nyo gamitin si XML kung medyo heavy kayo, kung medyo familiar naman kay XML or kay fixed width, and these 3 files. I suggest pwede nyo kayo magganito for practice purposes. Kasi kay XML, medyo heavy yung configurations natin dyan. So, baka mahirapan kayo. Ayun. But of course, I won't stop you from any challenges. So, if you are interested to work on an XML file, then you are free to do so. As long as the final output will be a CSV file. Yun lang yung parang requirement natin. So, yan. Ito yung magiging source na gagamit nyo. Sige, send na natin dito para you guys can have a link of it. So again, gagawa kayo ulit ng end-to-end. So set up your WSL, create your own FTP server, tapos create this pipeline that can be scheduled. Ayan. Tapos, ito yun. Same process natin. Download the file, upload to local FTP server. Quick lang, in case na medyo nahirapan talaga kayo sa FTP server, okay lang. Ang gawin nyo na lang is, etong sa pipeline nyo, ang gagawin nyo na lang is, wala na po tayong ganitong step. Etong upload to FTP tsaka to. Tanggalin nyo na lang siya. Okay lang yan. Kasi ang mangyayari dyan, kapag tinanggal na siya, magda-download siya sa current directory nyo dito. Pwede kayong gumawa dito ng folder that's called data para dyan nyo na lang siya i-upload. Alright? So, okay lang yan. That's fine. If medyo nahirapan kayo sa FTP, I know na medyo heavy yun. But I still encourage you to do that para magamay nyo pa rin siya. Alright? Kasi mag-skill din yung Linux, especially for data engineers. Okay? So that's your take-home activity. Teka lang, i-copy ko siya. Tapos, i-paste natin dito sa comments. Ayun lang, bawal mag-paste. Tapos, yan. And for you to submit this, feel free to join the Data Engineering Pilipinas Discord server. I-post yung repository nyo on the GitHub channel. Pwede rin nyo siyang i-post sa Data Engineering Pilipinas group. You are guys free to tag me, 𝗘𝗂𝗶𝗿𝗀. So, ito yung aking LinkedIn. Yan. Ako yan. Tapos, syempre, i-post nyo rin siya sa LinkedIn page nyo. I encourage you guys to do this last step kasi, syempre, ang goal natin dito is for us to attract potential recruiters. So, ayun, I encourage you guys to post your work here on LinkedIn. And again, feel free to tag me para ko din siya, para network din, ganun. Use these hashtags para maganda yung natin, yung coverage natin. At yan. For our next projects, so tapos na tayo sa introduction and project overview. Okay na tayo sa version control. And right now we had our extracting data to Python to FTP using Python session. Tapos next week, gagamit naman tayo ng SSIS. Ayan. So yung same na CSV files na ginamit natin dito sa session na to, ilo-load naman natin siya from FTP server papuntang PostgreSQL. Magiging table na siya. Okay? And the next steps will be mag-develop tayo ng sanction screening API. So yung diniscuss ko kanina ng sanction screening, yun yung gagawin natin. And couple of other things, which is more on Power BI data modeling. Again, that's gonna be handled by someone else. So I'll announce this naman kapag na-finalize na namin yung mga bagay-bagay. And we are going to have some machine learning topics. Sorry, ito pa pala. Sa March 23, ang gagawin natin dito is gagamit tayo ng R instead of Python. Kasi ang goal ko dito sa session na to is to talk about the fundamentals of machine learning and how we understand a regression model, which is linear regression. It's not just going to be about fit model lang or model.fit lang, but I'll walk you guys through on understanding the parameters, the coefficients, how we measure if it's good or it's a bad model, and let's also look at briefly the residuals. So yung mga ganung mga bagay-bagay na medyo heavy on the on statistical part na. Okay? But it's still gonna be practical part naman. Okay, so that's just about it. So thank you guys for attending this session. Sige, let me know if you have any last questions. So let's connect here on LinkedIn din para masaya. Ay, but notifications kagi. Okay, so let me know guys if you have any questions. So let's connect via LinkedIn para makapag-post din kayo at matag nyo ako. Ayan. Pero if shy type kayo, you can still use Facebook or Discord or the Data Engineering Group Pilipinas. So, ayun. Pero again, I encourage you guys to post your work on LinkedIn. So you still have 1 week to do this. Ayan. The recording will be posted later tonight para mabalikan nyo pa rin siya. Especially kapag na-confuse kayo dun sa part na kino-configure natin si FTP. So, ayun. So that's just about it. Thank you guys for attending this session and good night sa inyo. Good night. Good night.